The biggest ever team in League of Legends continues to shock us. T1, Korea's second seed, stomped Europe's top-seeded Mad Lions in 16 minutes and 47 seconds. That's right, Game 3 was so fast that it was shorter than one of the breaks between games. T1 looks so good that it almost feels like 2016 all over again. So can Faker and this team do what they did back then and have failed to do since and win the whole damn thing?
It's 16 minutes, guys! It's 16 minutes! No, we don't lose in 16!
It's on cookie long time.
Alright guys, before we get into the video, just want to remind you that liking the video and subscribing to the channel really does help. And I don't know, maybe stay around to the end of the video for a very fun question that you can answer. For real. There will be an N-board question. So, after a season where they seemed like destined favorites at Worlds and then fell short, T1 are again showing us why they are such a scary League of Legends roster. Not only did they beat Mad Lions 3-0, but they did it very quickly. So quickly, in fact, that you might as well call it MSI glitchless any percent speedrun, because it was so fast. It was incredibly fast. Interestingly, this series was also more popular than any series in 2022's MSI except the final itself. While Faker obviously tends to draw crowds, the popularity of the series might have something to do with the way that the game started, because Mad Lions were giving EU fans a lot to cheer about early.
Now Niski under attack.
He's got the flash available, will be using it, gets the stun below.
You're dead! Faker dead!
Goes to Mad Lions.
Stun, stun, stun! Show me Q earlier! I bless you with my Q! I bless you with my Q! I bless you with my Q! Oh, the flash! Yes! That's the boys! Let's go.
Mad were able to turn that early advantage into a 7,500 gold lead over T1, but a disastrous team fight saw that gap narrow a bit, and then this happened.
Oh my god, please stop it.
The Baron has been started.
Jesus, take the wheel.
Okay, remember all those flashes we
They're gonna burst it, aren't they?
Oh my god, they're just
gonna flip it! Why? No, 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 no! Yes, no, maybe. Yes! No! Shit, man.
So after that pretty emotional start to the series and a great adaptation by T1 in Game 2, we got to see again exactly why T1 is so scary.
Mad Lions cannot defend their base at 16.5 minutes. The Nexus turrets are being destroyed. The Nexus could be focused. It's up to Chasey to defend it. Have T1 seriously won a game in 17 minutes? I have never seen a more dominant win from a second seed taking down LEC's #1 in 17 minutes. T1 embarrassed Mad Lions.
Like, this game ended so quickly they barely would have had time to surrender, because you can only do that after 15 minutes. It's the second fastest international game of League of Legends ever, and T1, who were then called SKT, were involved in the fastest one, but they were on the receiving end at MSI 2019, and it was IG that was doing it to them. As excellent and popular as it was, this series provoked all sorts of great responses from members of the League of Legends community too. Plus, it's not every day that you get to see a Rift Herald do the old FBI open up on the Nexus turrets in pro play. Maybe you see it every day because you're like Wood League, I don't know, Iron League. But one thing that it does feel like we've seen before is a series like this. As Redditor Play pointed out, the classic pattern of throw away the surprise lead Game 1, struggle against the LCK team's adaptations in Game 2, and get stomped due to mental boom in Game 3 is just a timeless pattern. But could this tournament break a pattern for Faker? He hasn't won an MSI since 2017, but he's a very different player than he was back then, and the roster around him is completely different as well. An MSI win now could bring Faker back to a new level of prominence with younger fans who maybe didn't see him dominate in those early years. Don't get me wrong, I still think he's the GOAT, obviously, but his legend can absolutely still grow. Side note, Faker actually played his 200th international pro game during this series, And that's a huge accomplishment for any pro player in this game. And who knows, maybe Faker and co could take the momentum from an MSI win and bring that into Summer and even Worlds. He hasn't won a World since 2016, but there's some good evidence that this roster is capable of doing it. For one, Gumayushi, the team's ADC, was absolutely on fire in this series, and he'll need to be if he wants to see success internationally. His Aphelios is just really scary, and you could see it in the game 1 team fight where T1 are down 7,500 gold. Gumayushi doesn't care.
2,500, 1,500. It's secured by T1. Zeus is the immediate target. That's all of a sudden the Moonlight Vigil fight. T1 have belted through the hit points for now. They've stood toe to toe. Ona is forced away. Chasey finds him. Slicing Maelstrom, but it's at the cost of Nesquik's life. 4 members of T1 going backwards. They get the hook onto the little hamster and the jump charge onto Kazi. How the hell are T1 doing it? They managed to win the fight, down 7,000 gold. Alyoya's running for his life and Kazi's trying to find time, trying to find the feathers. He's rooted up Faker. He needs one more, but he simply can't do it. Guma's the next target. Feather storm out. Kazi wants to close it out with the help of Alyoya. Somehow, Mad Lions bring it back from the jaws of Teamfight defeat, only for T1 to shut them right down. This fight has gone on so long that Niski's been able to respawn and teleport back in. All of a sudden, Niski, can he catch Faker? Looking for the Incinerate, the Disintegrate, but Faker's too. Tonki turns it around again. Zeus the next target. Depth charge again. Faker finally down. Niski running for his life, but it's T1. It's T1.
This is madness! All the shutdowns here going over.
And Keria, a support player who's been called the best player in the world and seems to carry games like a mid laner sometimes, was also red hot. You can expect to see this cleanse that he landed on Gumayushi in highlight reels for a long time.
Skewer, flash, Guma, there's no one to jump back on him, and Hilly's
Oh my god, he
targeted down. Faker gets another. Niski uses the
Oh, Keria and Guma! Oh my! Oh no! 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 Chasing
Maelstrom gets at least a kill back.
All in all, this team is looking so strong that I half expect their next game to break records too. Okay, so back to those recurring themes. Another one of those, of course, is an NA team getting swept internationally, and that reared its ugly head when we saw C9 get swept out by the LPL's Billy Gaming. And another NA team, Golden Guardians, was swept just this morning by Chinese powerhouse JDG. Listen, I'm sure this is the part of the script where I'm supposed to talk about how the gap looks more like the chasm or something, but ultimately, I think that Mad probably learned a lot from this series. And even though EU's top seed got blasted, well, they have to figure out LCK teams at some point better now than at Worlds. But you know, one thing that definitely won't help, if you make posts trying to psychoanalyze the players based on their facial expressions, or just sling venom at them from afar, come on guys, let's be better than this. So what's next for T1 and Mad Lions? Well, this tournament thankfully has a lower bracket. So Mad Lions will go on to face fellow EU team G2. Yeah, very unfortunate, not great. T1, on the other hand, will go on to face Gen G, another LCK squad, but one that has notably never made it to an MSI Grand Final. Despite that, both LCK teams have a lot of history. The Gen G organization, formerly known as Samsung Galaxy, is the only other organization besides T1/SKT to win Worlds more than once. For both LEC and LCK fans, it's basically Alien versus Predator. Whoever wins, we lose. Well, one of us still wins. I'm kind of a glass half full kind of guy, you know? What seems obvious to me is that if you can get a series like we got in the semifinals, well, MSI could get even better. And if this is the year that Faker hoists the Summoner's Cup, you're gonna wanna say that you were watching along. You're gonna wanna say, I called it. Plus, there's always a chance that T1 improves on their speedrun time. Every year in the summer, there's a carpenter bee around my house. And carpenter bees are dope. They're like little bees. They don't sting you. They're very curious about humans as well. And I guess what happens with these bees is they eventually find a mate and they just leave with their mate. So every year there's like one that shows up. And I give it a name. So if you guys want to name my carpenter bee, put it in the comments and I will pick the one that I like the most. Don't do anything weird though, okay? Okay, don't call it something like super weird. But yeah, name my carpenter bee in the comments if you got to the end of this video, and I will pick the one that I like the most, and I'll put it at the end of my next video that I do for Don't At Me. Cool.